Good evening and welcome to the Daily News Roundup. I am Abigail Smythe. Coming up in this evening's newscast, Jamaica on alert for cough syrups possibly linked to children's death. 2 men shot, 1 fatally in Clarendon. 1 Kingston High School on edge as schoolboys form gangs. Barretttown and Springmount residents relieved at the death of O'Shane Mutumba Earl. Police seize close to $10 million in counterfeit cash. In business, Starbucks opens another location in Jamaica. In the region, U.S. defends its decision to issue travel advisory against Trinidad and Tobago. Further overseas, Russia unleashes deadly attacks on cities across Ukraine. And in sports, West Indies warms up for World Cup with victory over United Arab Emirates. We begin on the local scene. Jamaica is on alert for 4 cough and cold syrups that could possibly be linked to the deaths of 66 children in Gambia. Minister of Health and Wellness Dr. Christopher Tufton says the ministry's records indicate that neither the manufacturer, Maiden Pharmaceuticals in India, nor the product is registered with the ministry, and therefore the possibility of the product entering Jamaica is remote. He says the system has already alerted the Standards and Regulation Division of the ministry, and the Import Permit Department is monitoring all donations and personal imports to further reduce the risk of the product entering the country. According to the medical product alert issued by the World Health Organization on Wednesday, the 4 products are promethazine oral solution, cofexmalin baby cough syrup, Maycough baby cough syrup, and Magrip and cold syrup. 2 men were shot, 1 fatally, during an event in Moko, Clarendon, Saturday night. The deceased has been identified as David Dyer, otherwise called Christ, a welder of Belmont District in the parish. It is reported that the brothers were at an event in the community when 2 men armed with handguns opened fire, hitting Dyer in the head and upper body. His brother was shot in both legs and right hand. They were both taken to hospital where Dyer was pronounced dead and his brother admitted in stable condition. Dyer, who is believed to have been the intended target, was before the Mapen court for 3 counts of shooting with intent. The Trelawny police have revealed that members of 4 criminal gangs were present at an unauthorized party in Hague Settlement in the parish, where 3 men were shot dead during a confrontation with members of a joint police military operations team. The Operation Relentless 2 team had gone to shut down the event during the wee hours of Saturday morning. During a press conference at the Falmouth Police Station on Sunday, Commander of the Trelawny Police Division, Deputy Superintendent Winston Milton, identified the gangs as Sinners, One Voice, Six, and the fledgling Taliban. Milton said the party was hosted by the leader of the Sixth gang and that there were designated areas with banners for the respective criminal rings at the venue. The senior cop disclosed that one of the areas was delegated to One Sin, which is strongly believed to have been for Sinners, and One Voice, 2 former rivaling factions in the community. He noted that this is of particular concern because the 2 criminal factions are rival groupings and consistently in conflict. He said this is now an amalgamation of both criminal groupings as they try to consolidate and organize themselves to perpetuate criminal activities across the space. He added that gangsters are responsible for nearly half of the murders recorded in the parish since the start of this year, and the Trelawny police are now placing a heavy emphasis on dismantling the criminal organizations. The police reported that on Saturday, October 8, about 2:15 a.m., a joint police-military team on an Operation Relentless 2 exercise in Trelawny went to stop an illegal event at Hague Settlement. On their arrival, the team was attacked by criminal elements who opened gunfire at them. It is reported that the team was forced to defend themselves. When the shooting subsided, 4 persons were found suffering from gunshot wounds. Among them was one member of the Jamaica Defense Force, and all 4 were rushed to hospital where 3 were pronounced dead and the JDF member treated for injuries he sustained. 3 pistols, 2 Taurus and a Beretta, and a total of 17 9mm cartridges were seized. The deceased, all of Hague Settlement, were identified as 26-year-old Trevor Riney, also called Beanie, 23-year-old Ashane Surgeon, also called Pimento or Primo, and 21-year-old Tushni Cleghorn, also called Tisane or Blacks. The Trelawny police chief stated that intelligence have indicated that all 3 men were members of the Sinners gang, which operates within the Hague Settlement community. He disclosed that Riney was released from prison in January 2022 after serving 5 years for illegal possession of firearm. Meanwhile, Ashane Surgeon's mother said her son was a chef and described him as a quiet, mannerly young man. His grandmother states that the family did not know of him being involved in criminal activities. Melton also raised concern that teenagers ages 15 to 17 were among several individuals taken into custody and issued a warning to gangsters and other criminal elements. He said, quote, "I urge you to surrender your firearms when confronted by members of the security forces within the parish. Should you choose to engage them with guns, rest assured that they will employ every legitimate legal means to defend themselves and the citizens of the parish. We will not relent, we will not retreat, we will not surrender." End quote. Residents of Barrett Town and Springmount are breathing a sigh of relief following the fatal shooting of O'Shane Motumbo Earl by the police in Pepper St. Elizabeth last Wednesday. Residents say he terrorized both communities. Sources say his death has put an end to a trail of blood left by a maniacal killer who was at the top of St. James' most wanted list. Since his death, sources have pointed to at least 7 murders, a number of robberies and shootings which were linked to Motumbo over the past 3 years. According to the sources, Motumbo first hit the police's radar when he allegedly committed a murder on November 4, 2019. In that incident, a man known as Ali, a laborer of Corner Road, Dumfries, St. James, was sitting at his mother's shop with other family members when he was pounced on by a gunman, later identified as Motumbo, who shot him all over his body. Wanted for questioning in connection with that murder, Motumbo went under the radar and did not resurface until March 2021 when the police linked him to a second murder, this time of Brian Coote, who was associated with members of the Crocs gang. With his reputation now made in the St. James criminal underworld, Motumbo attracted the attention of the police again in October 2021 when Sean Clark was murdered as he left a bar in St. James. It is believed that Clark was marked for death because he had a relationship with Motumbo's ex-girlfriend. The sources say Motumbo's attacks continued in February this year when he and another man attacked and shot 3 people, including a 19-year-old who was believed to be a senior member of the Crocs gang. On May 5, another alleged member of the Crocs gang, 24-year-old Dino Scott, otherwise called Bandit, was fatally shot in Spring Gardens. Investigators later linked Motumbo to that killing. The murder of a farmer, Dwayne Russell, in Adelphi Mountain, Spring Gardens on May 18 and Kerry Dixon hours later, allegedly by Motumbo, caused the police to intensify their search for the man who was now among their most wanted. The next day, members of a police team were on patrol in Spring Gardens when Motumbo was spotted. He was ordered to stop but fired at the police and escaped. 2 days later, a man reported to the police that he was asleep inside his house when he was alerted by his sister and woke up to see Motumbo standing over him with a gun pointed in his direction. According to the man, Motumbo demanded that he hand over cash that was being kept inside the house. He escaped with just over $400,000. With the search for Motumbo now in earnest, on June 1, a police military team targeted a house in which he was reportedly hiding. Motumbo and another man ran from the building with guns pointed in the direction of the security team. Mutumbo was back in action days later when he held up a woman in Spring Gardens. The woman reported to the police that a masked man armed with a rifle attacked her inside her house. She said she pulled down the mask of her attacker, revealing his face, and immediately recognized him. According to the woman, Mutumbo then pointed the rifle towards her feet and fired one shot. He began to search the house and was joined by another man armed with a handgun. They left with approximately $150,000, which the woman had in the house. And with his reputation made as a gun for hire and a cold-blooded killer, Mutumbo next struck in Germantown, St. James on September 4, where he was identified as the man who shot dead 26-year-old Gary Morgan and shot two other men who survived. 3 days later, the fatal shootings of Crisanti Wilson and Shabar Godson were also pinned to Mutumbo. Police report that he had been visiting Wilson for some time as they shared an intimate relationship. Wilson had reportedly decided to end the relationship, but Mutumbo refused to accept that and, in a jealous rage, fatally shot the two. Police investigators said that while it has not yet been confirmed, Mutumbo might have been involved in a triple murder in Bounty Hall, Trelawny in January. In that incident, Daniel Williams, Tashay Black, and Shanelia Clark were fatally shot by 4 men armed with high-powered weapons. According to the investigators, spent casing found at the scene were matched to the gun used by Mutumbo in at least 2 other killings. And administrators, teachers, and parents of lower school students at a corporate area co-educational high school are on edge as a simmering dispute involving upper school boys appears ready to explode. It is believed that some boys in grades 10 and 11 have formed gangs which are mainly linked to the neighboring communities where they live and are going to school armed with knives, ice picks, choppers, and even guns. A source says after being made aware of the dispute, they started searching upper school students, but then later found out that they were passing their weapons to family members and neighbors in lower school to carry in. The source adds that they are now searching everyone, including the girls who are putting the weapons in, quote, some strange places on their bodies to carry them in, end quote. According to the reports, in a recent incident, 2 groups of boys faced off outside the school gate and one pulled a gun which he pointed at his rival, who fled while patrons at a nearby plaza looked on. The source states that they have not heard of the incident and are uncertain if the boy who pulled the gun is a student of the school. He said there are cases where their friends who do not attend the school have been dressing in uniforms and entering the school compound. The source also reveals that the school administration and teachers are currently in fear. The source says the school needs urgent intervention from the Ministry of Education and the police. The source adds that when PTA meetings are called, parents of the problem children do not attend, and those that do refuse to accept that their children are gang members. Since the start of the year, at least 2 clashes involving students on the compound have ended in tragedy. The St. Andrew South Police investigators are probing the seizure of millions of dollars in counterfeit money in the Duhaney Park area Saturday night. According to reports, a male government employee has been taken into custody in relation to the discovery and a motor vehicle in which the fake cash was discovered seized by the police. It is understood that a preliminary estimate puts the fake cash at close to $10 million and consisted of both U.S. and local currencies. SCJ Holdings Limited is refuting claims that a man who illegally collected money for land in the Bernard Lodge area of St. Catherine acted on behalf of the entity. On Thursday, the government demolished structures it said were illegally constructed on the lands near Clifton. However, some of the residents argued that they paid huge sums to a man for the purchase of the lots. Claims have since been made on social media that the man was working on behalf of SCJ Holdings, was known to SCJ officials, and turned over the monies collected to the entity. However, in a media release on Sunday, Managing Director of SCJ Holdings Limited, Joseph Shakir, described the social media posts as, quote, nonsense. He stated that the SCJ does not effect the sale of lands in such a lax manner. He added that no individual is authorized to collect cash on behalf of the SCJ. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the government will absorb the land impact fee associated with the construction of 15,000 new housing solutions in the Greater Bernard Lodge development area of St. Catherine. The impact fee is typically a one-time payment imposed by a local government on a property developer. The Prime Minister made the disclosure on Friday while addressing the National Housing Trust NHT's 2022 Board of Directors retreat at the Rock Hotel in downtown Kingston. The NHT is undertaking the housing development at Bernard Lodge in partnership with the Housing Agency of Jamaica, HAJ. Prime Minister Holness says the government will not pass on the fee to the developer, so the cost of the houses should come down. He notes that the lower price will make the units more affordable for low-income earners, including persons occupying lands adjoining the Clifton community, which have been designated for agriculture. He adds that the NHT will be directed to place these 100 acres at Bernard Lodge on a fast track. Convicted drug kingpin dancehall entertainer Flipper Mafia has been released from prison. According to public records from the New Jersey State Department of Corrections, Flipper Mafia, whose given name is Andrew Davis, was released last Tuesday. Davis was convicted on June 3, 2016 of possession of a dangerous and controlled substance in the form of cocaine, conspiracy to distribute a dangerous substance, and money laundering. He was convicted at a trial on December 17, 2015. He was also charged with leading a narcotics trafficking network, but the jury could not reach a unanimous verdict on that charge. Davis's record shows he should have been released on August 11, 2030, but was released on early parole, having served almost 9 years of his 17-year sentence. Court records indicate that in the course of the investigation, detectives recovered more than 26 kilograms of cocaine, worth more than $960,000, 2 handguns, and more than $500,000 in cash. Flipper Mafia developed a reputation of being brash and flamboyant in the dancehall space, with several stories of him throwing away wads of cash in parties and performances and boasting of his riches in his music. Flipper Mafia's brother, Kemar Davis, was sentenced to 20 years in state prison, including 12 years of parole ineligibility, after pleading guilty to his role as co-leader of the ring with his brother. Another brother, Roger Davis, pleaded guilty to first-degree possession of cocaine with intent to distribute and was sentenced to 10 years in state prison. Flipper Mafia's girlfriend, Marsha Bernard, was convicted of first-degree distribution of cocaine, second-degree money laundering, and second-degree conspiracy. She was sentenced to 21 years in prison. Flipper Mafia has reportedly completed his high school diploma and earned a college degree while incarcerated. In business, the Starbucks franchise in Jamaica is opening a 12th store. It is slated for opening this month in the Mall Plaza in St. Andrew and will employ 18 people at the location, 14 of whom are trained as coffee baristas. Managing Director of Starbucks Caribbean, Joey Epstein, says the next stores are slated for Red Hills Road in St. Andrew and then Portmore. He adds that they will have 15 stores in short term and 25 in the long term. And in the region, the United States is defending its decision to issue a travel advisory against Trinidad and Tobago earlier this month. Port of Spain says it had been taken aback by the advisory that urged Americans to stay away from the capital, given that violence and shootings occur regularly. The embassy in Trinidad said each country is assigned an overall travel advisory level from 1 to 4, and the department's travel advisory levels are based on established risk indicators such as health, crime, terrorism, kidnapping or hostage-taking, civil unrest, natural disasters, and other potential risks. In its advisory, while Washington maintained a Level 2 for Trinidad and Tobago, it issued a Level 4 advisory for Port of Spain that advises U.S. citizens not to travel there. Further, it said U.S. government personnel are prohibited from traveling to several areas, including all beaches, and said violent crimes such as murder, robbery, assault, sexual assault, home invasion, and kidnapping is common, and that gang activity such as narcotics trafficking is common. However, the National Security Minister, Fitzgerald Hines, said Trinidad and Tobago has not had any major terrorist activity for years. And on the international scene, Russia unleashed a barrage of deadly attacks on cities across Ukraine on Monday, hitting the heart of the country's capital, Kyiv. From Lviv in the west to Kharkiv in the northeast, missiles tore through rush hour traffic and into energy facilities in apparent retaliation for a blast that damaged a key bridge to the annexed Crimean Peninsula over the weekend. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced in a televised address that his military had launched a massive strike on Ukraine's energy, military command, and communications facilities, telling his Security Council it was revenge for what he called Kyiv's long track record of terrorist actions, including the bridge blast. The Russian leader also issued a threat. He said, quote, "If attempts to carry out terrorist attacks on our territory continue, Russia's response will be tough and will correspond in scale to the level of threats posed to Russia. No one should have any doubts about this," end quote. The city's military administration said at least 6 people were killed and 51 injured in the capital. And according to the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, at least 11 people were dead and 64 injured across the country. And in sports, the West Indies began their warm-ups for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in Australia on a winning note Sunday evening with victory over United Arab Emirates by 17 runs. The West Indies will next be in action on Wednesday, where they face the Netherlands at the MCG in Melbourne. And for the highlights of Sunday's football games, Crystal Palace beat Leeds 2-1, West Ham defeated Fulham 3-1, and for the most anticipated matches, Arsenal took the victory over Liverpool 3-2, while Manchester United took home the win, beating Everton 2-1. Arsenal leads the Premier League table with 24 points. Manchester City follows in second with 23 points. Tottenham sits third with 20 points, while Chelsea is fourth with 16 points. And Manchester United rounds off the top 5 with 15 points. And that's it for the news roundup for today. I am Abigail Smythe. See you next time.
Teach them! Hey, yo, yellow! Send the message and make it reach them. It's teach them. Right here, Warlord representing.
Thank you for watching. Like the video before you go. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. And remember to share the video with your friends and family. And browse the channel for more quality content. Until next time, walk good, my friends.
Teach them!